So it took quite a while, but I ordered one of the Ethiopian contract K98s from World Tiger Imports. I opted for the cracked stock option. It saved me about 200 bucks, so just figured I would go for it and see what I get. And so far I'm pretty happy with what I got. It took about 2 months to ship, but wasn't really in a big rush like the other projects I have. And I'm pretty happy with what I got, so I'll go ahead and take a closer look at it. Starting with the buttstock, looks okay so far. It's got the medallion in it. Pretty dirty, so I'll have to clean it off to see how it looks, but I think some of those are missing in some of the lesser grades. You can see here the wood looks pretty good so far. It's got some pretty good finish on the bolt and receiver here. The trigger guard here is pretty worn out, looks pretty much in the white. And you can see here, starting around where the barrel is, you can see the finish starts to drop off. You can see what looks like some dents here. It looks like the recoil lug here got knocked back. So I'll be interested to see what that looks like when I take it apart. Might just need a repair there, but it'll be interesting to see why that's knocked back. You can see it's a swp45. The rear sight looks like it's in pretty good shape. SWP is one of the marks for the Czech manufacturers that made them after the war. So these are made by the Czechs, and they used a lot of leftover German parts and the machinery left behind to produce these. You can see it's got the two barrel bands. It's later welded versions. You can see you got the welds here and here underneath this one, up in the front. And it's missing the sight hood, and there's no cleaning rod. There's a hole for the cleaning rod here. It's just missing it. And it's pretty much in the white down here on the bands, as well as the barrel. It does look like the wood here is a little marred. There's a small crack there. Let's go ahead and flip it over. Looks pretty good here. I think this will clean up really nicely with some linseed oil. I'm assuming this is what made it a cracked stock. As you can see, there's a crack here, but this should actually be pretty easily repairable. Should just be able to use a vise, basically glue this back together. Since it's straight down the, looks like it might have just been a delaminate versus an actual crack. You can see it follows the lamination pattern. There's a bit of a chunk here. See the finish here is a little rough. There's the Czech lion. You can see it here on the barrel and on the receiver. That's the post-war Czech inspection stamp. They replaced the wartime German Waffenamts. You can see here this looks pretty good. It's interesting with the trigger guards, they didn't have German-made trigger guards in the Czech factories. They didn't have the machinery to make them, so they just kind of made their own. It's kind of interesting. It's like a stamped version with a larger, kind of referred to as winter trigger guard, and kind of resembles the Springfield version of it. So normally I take a look at the bore, but it's basically just packed with dirt and grease down there. I can see some rifling from the rear of the rifle looking down the bore. I can see some from the muzzle, but it's just kind of hard to tell right now. So I have to clean it out first and see what I got. But so far it looks okay. I just have to clean it out before I can get a decent shot of it with all the grease and dirt and stuff that's down there. So I'm going to break this down and get it cleaned up and show you how it looks as I go and once I finish it up. So I got it all broken down. I'll go ahead and take a closer look at it. So you can see here the action. So you can see here the receiver. Pretty dirty underneath the wood. Lots of dirt. There's some of the bugs there and plant life. They're all dead, luckily. Nothing moving. It looks like all the finish underneath the wood though looks pretty good. I mean, that's typical of a lot of these Ethiopian cache weapons, is anything that was exposed pretty much loses its finish, but everything under the wood looks pretty good. Likely a mixture of how it was stored, but I know a lot of these got wire wheeled, so that could possibly be the issue. Bolt overall looks good. It's got some light pitting, nothing to be worried about. Extractor doesn't look too good though. Looks pretty worn. I'm not really sure if that will function properly. Have to examine it a little closer, but you can see it's pretty worn down. There's a trigger guard. The finish looks pretty good. He's looking at a cursory inspection. It's interesting how this is a stamp part. See, the Czechs really simplified a lot of these parts, removing all the traditionally milled parts and making them all stamped. The firing pin looks straight, doesn't look damaged. Sometimes you see these teeth are worn out or broken. The spring looks good too. And the other components for the bolt look pretty good as well. Butt plate's in good shape. Yugos and the Czechs would put this like kind of red primer in there to protect against rust. It seems to work pretty well. Pretty dirty inside of it though. You can see here there's some small cracks here in the front of this top handguard. So you can really see where this got cracked. You can see it's cracked down here, right along the laminate. And there's a crack right here, but it's definitely repairable. You can see a lot of that same plant and bug life in here. Looks like it has the part here to screw in a cleaning rod. And the bayonet lug looks like it's pretty good shape. I'll probably knock that out a little later down the road. Laminate looks good farther down the stock. And then looking at the butt, looks pretty good. Just dirty. So go ahead and get started. I'll start cleaning all this up, and then when I'm finished I'll take a video of it. After I'm finished I'll probably put it all back together to show you how it all looks cleaned up, but I'll definitely have to take this back apart and do some of the stock repairs. I'll do that in a separate video, and I'll have to, while that's going on, I'll probably boil and card all these parts. That'll probably help out with some of the lack of finish on them. And I'll definitely be doing a lot of work on this bore. Hopefully I can get that visible for all of you at the end of the video. So go ahead and get to work, and I'll check in a little later. So go ahead and get to work. It's got it all cleaned up. Go ahead and take a closer look at it. So I got the stock cleaned up. I did find out what was wrong with it. Sorry to mention before, but the recoil lug here was basically pushed back because the wood here looks like it was removed. Looks like it probably broke off. You can see in this stock the wood is present there. And the rifle was most likely fired with that wood missing, and the pressure on the recoil lug was a little too great. It started shifting backwards, and as it shifted backwards it ended up cracking the stock back here. As you can see here, I was lucky enough that I know someone who ended up having this extra stock. It's the same type with the coin here. So in the meantime, I'll be fitting this stock to the rifle. I do plan to try to repair this stock. I'll probably use a vise to basically fix this crack here, glue it. And with here, what I'll probably do is end up putting in a piece of wood here and attaching it, and I'll probably use 1 or 2 pins to really secure it in place. I'll also remove this recoil lug here, clean it out, and I'll assess if there's damage in the wood of the stock here. If so, I'll probably repair that as well. But other than that, the stock on this is pretty nice, so I'd like to repair it. But in the meantime, I'll be able to install it in this one to be able to shoot it. Action, the barrel look really nice. It's got a waffen up there. There's some worn finish where it was exposed, but where it was covered up by the wood, the finish is actually really nice. I did boil and card this front cap here. Came out pretty nicely, kind of restored some of its finish. Did the same thing for all the metal parts. Did restore some of the finish for it. These bands are pretty much too far gone, but the inside of the bands did help with the finish there, removing some of the rust and converting it to bluing. Bolt, firing pin, spring look pretty good. I did source a replacement for the extractor. This extractor was broken. You can see really a difference between the two and how much metal was missing on this extractor. Trigger guard came out pretty nice. Again, the finish was just pretty much just too far gone on the outside here to do much about. Otherwise, looks good. You can see these parts for the bolt came out really well. Cleaned up nicely. Put a bunch of the small parts inside the butt plate here. I did get these screws that I had and cleaned them up. I'll be replacing the screws in the trigger guard with these just because these are a little kind of iffy. They really soft steel, so when I was removing them it was already just kind of pulling some of the metal out of here and chipping it away, so they don't really look like screws that came with the rifle. Look like they were made at some point and just kind of threaded to fit. So I'll be replacing them with these German trigger guard screws. But I'll go ahead and reassemble all this using the replacement stock, and I'll do a video of it and as well as show you the bore. I did get asked if you can take one of these Ethiopian contract K98s and drop it into a World War II German stock. The answer so far seems to be you can, but you'll have to fit it. So this is an Ethiopian contract stock. You can see the wood here is flat down where the trigger would slide into the stock. You can see on a German one, it's like kind of beveled here. And that's because the receivers are cut a little different. So you can see on this Ethiopian contract the Czechs made, there's not a very clean bevel here. And if you look at a lot of the German-made K98s, they have this really clean bevel that comes through here. And that's why the stock is shaped like this. So if you do plan to put a early post-war Czech-made K98 action inside of one of these German stocks, you might have to remove some of the wood here in order to make it fit. You can see here, this is what it looks like if you just simply drop it in. It's basically sticking up. You can definitely see the gap there. Now compared to a German-made K98 and a German stock, you can see it's nice and flush. So just a tip, if you do plan to try to drop one of these into a German stock, as you will probably have to do some fitting in order to make it work. So got it all reassembled. Go ahead and take a closer look at it. So the new stock, you can see this one has the cartouche and everything in it. Cleaned up pretty well. I don't see the usual marks on the wood, but my best guess is that this is wire wheeled, just because there's a lot of good finish kind of to the back here, but as you go forward on the receiver, it just kind of has varying levels, but a lot of areas that are in the white. Top handguard matches the new stock pretty well. And you can see that the barrel and the barrel bands are in the white. Looking at the other side, again, the stock's in really good shape. And on this side as well, just a significant amount of finish lost on the barrel bands and the barrel itself. Same story down here. I did install 2 German trigger guard screws. The ones that came with looked kind of like they were improvised by the Africans and put together at some point. They didn't look like original factory screws. But overall, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Looking at the bore is kind of in fair shape. It's got a lot more rifling towards the chamber than the muzzle. It'll be interesting to see how it shoots. But overall, a good example of a Czech-made Ethiopian contract K98. The crack stock discount definitely made it worthwhile, and since I was able to get another stock from a friend, really no cost to me, it was pretty helpful. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it'll help you make a decision of your own if you want to get one of these Ethiopian contract K98s. They're definitely a unique type of K98, and if you're interested in it, definitely recommend you check it out. It was a pretty fun project and definitely a unique type of K98 you don't really find elsewhere. If you'd like to see these types of videos, feel free to subscribe. Should have some more videos coming out soon. I have a bunch of new projects coming in, as well as some collection videos I'll be doing. Thank you for watching.